Modi's India is refusing to surrender or bow to US tariff pressure. Now President Trump claims the US has lost India and Russia to China. Well, look who's talking. Americans today are blaming Donald Trump for alienating India and weakening the United States. While Indian economy is soaring despite Trump tariffs, the US president has now been slammed by American Congressman Adam Smith, who has accused Donald Trump of putting pride and ego over American interests.
That's just idiot foreign policy. It's a huge problem for our country.
Talking to CNN, Adam Smith claims, quote, "Why did Trump put this 50% tariff on India? As near as we can tell, it's because Modi refused to give Trump credit for ending the India-Pakistan conflict a few months ago. While Pakistan wanted to nominate Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, Modi didn't play ball on that. So because Trump is personally affronted, we're alienating a crucial partner and a crucial ally. That's just idiot foreign policy. It's a huge problem for our country," unquote. However, over the last 24 hours, first President Trump softened his stand.
India and the United States have a special relationship. There's nothing to worry about.
And then Prime Minister Modi reciprocated President Trump's sentiments and the India-US global strategic partnership.
Mr. Modi obviously attaches enormous importance to our partnership with the United States.
But let's take a look at how we got here. The India-US trade standoff is not about trade at all. It's a power battle, as India just won't allow United States to interfere in the Kashmir conflict with a terror state like Pakistan.
There have been tensions on that border for 1,500 years.
Adam Smith is also a member of the US House Armed Services Committee. He has now confirmed what the New York Times claimed about the explosive Modi-Trump phone call on the 17th of June, which led to the tariff fiasco, and that Prime Minister Modi has refused to take several calls from President Trump after that telephonic altercation. German publication Frankfurter AZ went a step further, claiming Modi refused 4 phone calls from Trump. This was also confirmed by Japanese Nikkei Asia, which claimed, quote, "Trump recently attempted multiple times to call Modi in search of a compromise, but the Indian leader has consistently refused to take the calls, further heightening Trump's frustration," unquote. So what really happened in that June 17th phone call?
Alienate India, so India shows up at this confab.
That cost hundreds of billions of dollars to Russia. You call that no action?
Now, India feels betrayed by Donald Trump for interfering or trying to interfere or mediate in the conflict with Pakistan. And Donald Trump now feels betrayed as Prime Minister Modi just won't nominate him for the Nobel Peace Prize for trying to interfere in the same conflict. So let's take a detailed look at the New York Times report. The US-based publication states that the events which led to India-US ties plunging to a new low and the latter imposing 50% tariffs on India. The bilateral ties between the two nations have hit rock bottom. Some reports suggest Trump will not be coming to India now for the proposed Quad summit later this year. This is yet another indication that the US clout in the Indo-Pacific may be decreasing. The New York Times claims what majorly irked the US president was Prime Minister Modi repeatedly denying Trump's involvement in resolving the short war, and thereby denying Trump the opportunity to grab the peacemaker title in the India-Pakistan conflict, a claim which nevertheless Trump has repeated nearly 40 times now. India says it doesn't need any US mediation and that Indian military operation forced Pakistan to surrender. The paper added, the not-so-subtle implication, according to people familiar with the call, was that Mr. Modi should do the same, that is, nominate Trump for the Nobel Prize. On the other hand, India always had a firm stance on this matter, US not playing any role in brokering the ceasefire. As per Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri's statement on June 18th, which is just a day after the explosive Modi-Trump phone call, Misri claims Modi clearly conveyed to Trump that the US played no role in the mediation between India and Pakistan and denied any discussion of a trade deal linked to the ceasefire. Misri stated, Prime Minister Modi firmly stated that India does not and will never accept mediation. There is complete political consensus in India on this matter, unquote. Now, India spoke to many allies during that short war, including Saudi Arabia and Israel and others, as well as the United States. But merely talking to someone does not mean that they actually facilitated the ceasefire. That was purely achieved by the Indian military operation. The discussion to cease military operations took place directly between India and Pakistan, and talks of a ceasefire were initiated at the request of Pakistan. In fact, even Pakistan later denied that they asked the United States to intervene. So is this refusal by Prime Minister Modi to nominate President Trump for the Nobel Prize the reason for the excessive tariffs imposed on New Delhi by Washington? Now, India just doesn't accept any interference in the Kashmir issue. However, I'm sure India would support a Nobel Prize for President Trump if he actually managed to achieve peace in Ukraine, something that was his core poll promise, but he has failed to deliver and achieve it. So Trump now is looking for a major fall guy, someone to take the blame for the Ukraine war. He thinks it is India, which has supplied no weapons to either side, a country that only makes legal energy purchases as well as supplies crucial oil to Ukraine. Donald Trump could not be further from the mark. German newspaper Frankfurter AZ says Modi did not attend 4 calls by Trump after this incident due to depth of Modi's anger but also his caution. According to German newspaper, Modi was deeply offended by Donald Trump after he imposed an additional 25% tariffs on India for buying what is totally legal Russian oil purchases. Trump later remarked, "I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together." Prime Minister Modi also did not hold back either and took a pot shot at Donald Trump for pressuring India to bend to US demands, asserting that India was progressing towards becoming one of the world's top 3 economies. After being offended, the Modi government remained alert not to fall into any Trump's pressure tactics, citing Vietnam's example. The German newspaper added that Trump had previously renegotiated a trade pact between the US and Vietnam, which had already painstakingly arranged by delegations. Trump rearranged it during a single phone call with General Secretary To Lam of Vietnam. Without reaching any official agreement, Trump announced it on social media that a trade deal had been struck. Now, India wanted to avoid any such fiasco and prefers detailed discussions on every aspect and sectors of a mega trade deal behind the scenes, rather than instinctive announcements on social media, which might be difficult to implement and thus sour relations even further. But what else did not sit well with the Indian side? The US president did not stop poking and provoking India every chance he got. On the 31st of July, Trump announced sealing a trade deal with Pakistan to develop what he described as South Asian nations' massive oil reserves, though doubts remain. Taking a direct jibe at India in a social media post, President Trump also wondered if Pakistan could someday sell oil to India. Now, even the fact that Trump hosted Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir for a working lunch in the Oval Office was perceived in India as a provocation and betrayal. So is President Trump sabotaging India and US ties due to his personal ego and pride? Or is this just pressure tactics to corner India into an unfavorable trade deal? Whatever be the case, India does not allow any sort of mediation in the dispute with Pakistan simply because the global bodies have failed to resolve the issue in the past. When Jammu and Kashmir legally and lawfully acceded to India in 1947, then why has the United Nations or anybody else, global powers, asked Pakistan to vacate the illegally occupied parts of Kashmir? New Delhi strongly maintains talks with Pakistan could only be held on issue of terror and the return of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, no other issue. New Delhi has repeatedly rejected equating the two nations, the attacker and the victim being unfairly placed in the same bracket by global bodies. India has often highlighted the asymmetry between Pakistan's role as a state sponsor of terror and India's role as a state combating terror and religious hatred. On the 23rd of August, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar called out the unjustified and unreasonable tariff hikes imposed by the Trump administration. Outlining India's red lines in the ongoing trade talks with Washington, Jaishankar deeply criticized the doubling of tariffs on Indian goods to 50%. Speaking at an event in New Delhi, Jaishankar spoke on India's red lines, which no one can be allowed to cross. He elaborated. Since 1970, for more than 50 years now, there is a national consensus in this country that we do not accept mediation in our relations with Pakistan, unquote. But rather than respecting an ally's state policy, multiple reports now confirm President Trump was more busy chasing personal glory and that elusive Nobel Prize. Rest assured, if the unilateral and unjustified tariffs are not removed soon, the United States will lose its biggest ally in the Indo-Pacific, and with it, any chance of ever competing with China on issues such as Taiwan or Tibet. Modi's China visit has shown India has other options as far as trade is concerned. While India can never really trust China over border issues, Beijing is more than happy to back India in this trade war with the United States. But what do you believe? Can Modi and Trump still find an off-ramp and reset India-US ties? And who can India really trust as a long-term ally? The United States or China? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.